Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network. Well, here we are, fastly approaching a brand new year. And with that comes many of us thinking change, potentially maybe starting a new business or maybe juicing up our current business. And it sounds good, looks good on paper, but many of us, we get stuck. What's going on there? These ideas, we're just not moving it forward. What is holding you back from that? We're going to find out, give you some tips, some tricks, and that's from an amazing chief coach at a company called Masternomics. And they work with people to change their mindset, get them unstuck, and move their life forward. Not necessarily just for starting a new business, but we're going to kind of center on that. Honestly, I have a few things floating out there. I haven't moved them forward. What's going on with me? Martin is back with us. Martin Glin from Masternomics. How are you today?
Hey, I'm well. I'm feeling good, and I'm excited. Happy to be back talking with you.
Yeah, same here. Same here. You always have great insight. And this is one of my favorite topics because, again, I can relate to it. And maybe everybody has a story. Everybody learns from a story. So I have a couple of ideas floating out there. I partnered with some people, two different, call them side businesses, and we're moving forward, but we haven't deployed. And it's also on others. I'm not putting blame on anybody, in terms of their schedules, and we have a couple of things that need to get done. But in one in particular, I find that we are, I don't want to say overthinking, but making sure that everything is just right before we go. And then when we go, there is going to be an investment. So we want to make sure. But I wonder if it's just taking too long. It's like every day I look at the, we call it the punch list. All right, we got to get that. Got to take care of that. We nailed down the LLC. We were going to do an online bank that seems reasonable in, I'm going to say, Wyoming. Best place to start an LLC. Then we're like, this doesn't seem right. Something's not seeming right here. We went with our gut. So now we're going to go with a local bank. Is this what you hear from other people? This kind of stuff?
Yes. Now it's that's universal.
Okay.
So yeah. I hear from other people, and as a constant investor, I experience it too. And so I think what happens with a lot of us teeter on procrastination, and then there's just BS. So it's like this. You have to, if you have multiple things going, you're going to have to prioritize. And so I always tell people when we sit down and they say, well, I have this idea, that idea, and we go through goal setting. So if you got multiple things, you got to decide which one is the most important. And you can determine that by saying, if I got these three things, which one, if I did not do, it would affect my life drastically, right? And so that gives us a sense to say, okay, let me hone in on this. And then in the business setting, if you have partners, the way you eliminate that, you kind of use that same mentality, right? You say, okay, well, we had a goal. We were supposed to get this done in 6 months, but we keep, we're not doing this because we're trying to be perfect, so to speak. And that sense of so-called perfection, a lot of times is procrastination. And a lot of times we're not holding ourselves accountable. So definitely with working with other people, you have to have so many different stepping stones and little small goals to make sure you're getting where you're supposed to be getting. And working with other people, you've got to meet constantly. It can't be vague. It's got to be vivid. So we've got to have set days that we're constantly meeting. But as a whole, what holds people back, it really is, like I always say, is their beliefs and the mindset and the fears. And you mentioned New Year's, right? And so I always tell people, everybody says, I got these New Year's resolutions. And we kind of say that term, we just throw it out there. And we think resolutions are just ideas, something new I want to do. But if you look up the word resolution, the root word of resolution is to resolve. And so we have to think, what are we going to resolve, right, for this new year? So a mental shift has to come and say, what am I going to resolve? If I'm going to resolve something is not right in my life, it could be my weight, right? So how do I resolve my weight problem? And if we hold on to what we're trying to resolve, that's the problem that we're trying to fix. Then we can we can focus and hone in on fixing this problem and resolve something. So a lot of us don't realize that we have to resolve something. And so business, you should be resolving something, resolving some problem. And then us on a personal level to create another income stream, it has to resolve a problem, right? The problem is bringing us discomfort, so we can focus on that so we can resolve it.
I love that. And it's so obvious, but we overlook the obvious, that word resolve.
Yeah.
I was mouthing it as you were saying it, but I never even thought of it that way, because the word resolution gets thrown around.
Yes,
it's just like wallpaper after a while. You just,
right.
you just say to yourself, I'm going to make a resolution, which sounds like a plan. I'm going to do that.
But
exactly what are you trying to achieve? That's what we're talking about here. How do you know, in my situation, which I think is fairly common, how do you know that you're not overthinking it and you're being strategic to make sure everything is in place for the best success? So, we're checking this. We got to do this. We got to do that. We got to do that. We don't want to, waste money. How do you know? How do you know you've crossed the bridge from procrastination, from making sure everything is in order?
Right. What helps with that is having a standard that you're looking at. And inside a lot of times we overthink, right? So, somebody says, well, I'm gonna start a podcast. And they said that a year ago, and then I gotta have this type of microphone. They didn't have the money, so I had to work extra hard. I got that mic. Then I got this. Then I'm looking at people and I'm looking at somebody else and I'm saying, well, I gotta get this, I gotta get that. Then that, because you're trying to be perfect.
Yeah.
But if you study success, just get started. Right. When you listen to some of the most successful people, they're like, well, I started a company in my basement. People didn't know I was in the basement. So we waste a lot of time because we think we have to be so-called perfect. Right. But the most beautiful thing is your imperfectness. And we live in this world now where people want to see that you're human. You're not perfect. Right. And that is something we can market. So we have to have a standard of success to look at, and that's whatever industry you're in, right? If you're looking at that industry, you'll say, okay, well, how did this guy start? Right? He's telling you it wasn't perfect, but he got started. So, at some point we've got to hit and we got to say, look, we've got to get started now because this problem has to be resolved. And if it's money is such an easy instrument to measure things, right? Because it's like, well, we need more money. Right. So, that desire for more money collectively in the group of people that you're working with, it should shift us and say, look, how are we going to resolve this issue? We can't go another 6 months. We have what it takes. Let's get started.
I love that. And that reminds me to study people who are doing what you're doing, but deeply to figure it out. You mentioned podcasts. That's why I bring this up. You don't need all this high quality equipment. And I am a geek. What I'm doing here today, I was doing when I was 9. I taught myself electronics. Nobody wired any of this. There's a million miles of wire underneath this desk. I'm in an office building. I did it all. So I can tell you, and I'm just giving an example. It could be, I want to start a car repair business. Well, talk to people who do that. I can tell you straight out, you need a mic arm for your mic? $25, you're good. Microphone, this one's about $400. I like it. I worked in radio. I know you don't need it. $100, you're good to go. Computer, go on Amazon, refurbished. I guarantee you spend $150 on a refurbished. I got 5 of them around here. That's what I paid. Because you can. You don't have to overthink it. And to your point, you don't have to get the best of the best of the best. I want to make sure it's no. To your point, start in a basement. It's all good, but study others who have done it carefully, because you're going to learn little nuances, little things, little here. And also, I think it might ground you and make you realize that you don't have to be perfect. And that's coming from somebody who rode the perfectionism train for a long time until they jumped off. I get it. That's
key. That's key. We have to have examples, and I always tell people, we're people, right? So we need a physical example of somebody that has done what you want to do. success leaves clues. Like, there's clues to success. If we study the people that are successful in the field that we want to be in, I mean, you're going to get so much from it. But a lot of us think we have a dream, but the reality, what you got to realize, there's nothing new under the sun. You're really not thinking anything that has not been thought.
Yes. Martin, I was just thinking that, and I was hoping that we would bring that up. And it doesn't mean you're copying from somebody else. You're inspired by, you're emulating maybe what they've done. Even coming up with a name for your company. That comes from pieces of other things to inspire you. But 100%. There's nothing new out there. It may seem new, it's got a shiny, exterior, but it's not. It's not.
Yeah, it's I say, when I talk to people about their business, and that's the fear that a lot of people have. Some people say, well, everybody's doing it. And that becomes an excuse in that aspect, right? Yeah. You're making an excuse because, I don't know, they don't like me because so-and-so, he's got this or they got that. But what I tell people is, now, one thing, there is only one you. There's only one you. So no one will do it the way you will do it, right? And Steve, what you do in speaking, there's nobody that sounds exactly like you. And the most important thing, there's nobody that has your story, right? So all of us have to realize that whatever we want to do, whether that's baking cakes or selling cookies, or it's having a podcast, or it's being a mechanic, there's only one you, and no one will present it to the world the way like you do, because you're unique. And so and I always tell people, hone in on what is unique about you, your story. Because when we make money, people are really buying us. They're buying us. Like, somebody could get another coaching service from somebody else, right? But when I tell them my experiences of failing in business and being successful, I'm expressing them a part of myself. And I always tell people, this is why we need actual coaches. You can buy books, you can get on YouTube, you can Google, right? But a human experience is what's going to connect with you, right? To help you bring yourself and put it in your business.
Now, what you just said, everybody is unique. You're doing the same thing as that person over there, maybe that one over there, but you're doing it your way with your story. I'm a believer, and I've seen this in my journey, even in the last 4 or 5 years. It's about your mindset. It's about your energy, because you could have person A, person B, person C. They're all kind of doing the same thing. Why does person B shine? What's going on over there? What do you feel it's their mindset and the energy they're putting out, and they're attracting all the business, the success, the people are coming to them? Because you can't put your finger on it, but something going on with person B. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And yes, I know exactly what you're saying. And what we've got to realize is the difference is discipline. It's the person that we see and you're like, why does it work for this guy? It's because it's not the money that they have.
Yeah.
It's not the family that they were born in. It's not a race. It's not these outside things. It's the internal things that they're doing. They're doing what you're not doing, right? So if you're going to say, I'm not going to work for somebody, I'm going to create my own income. When you're getting this established, you will work twice as hard. So you will have to utilize the time that you have. That's study. That's disciplining yourself, studying your craft, right? Outworking other people. And that work comes from, what are you doing internally? Are you getting up early? Are you doing what your competitors aren't doing? Are you advertising where they're not advertising? Are you knocking on doors that the people that they have forsaken? And so successful people, they have the best habits, right? Great book, 7 Habits of Highly Successful People. We have to study success, and whether it's studying the guy that has the podcast company or the guy that has the mechanic shop, the successful people in that industry do the same thing. They have the best habits, and those habits shift them above the competitors.
100%. And by the way, person B may have a nickel to their name, but when they walk in that room at that networking event, they hold their head up high. They believe in what they've got. They believe, maybe it's not really happening at this moment, but they believe in the success, and they believe in themselves, and they just walk in like, and they're friendly and warm. Again, they could be living out of their car and have a nickel,
Yeah.
but it's how they present, and people want to be part of that.
Right. It's all in the presentation. And so that's where the personal development has to develop. Because how do you feel about yourself
Yeah.
when you're presenting whatever you have? So when I talk to some of my clients and their main problem is, well, I can't get the funding and or I can't get the money that I need. And they're afraid to go into the bank and ask for the money because they're afraid of hearing the word no. And I said, well, what you have to do is understand that banks are designed to they loan money. That's how they make money, right? So don't be afraid of it, afraid of them. When you go in, make sure you have the best presentation you have, of course, with your appearance and all of your information. I said, what they're not going to tell you no, they're going to tell you no right now because you're going to find out what you need in order to get that loan. And so it's all about your presentation and how you present whatever you're offering. We're always selling something, and we're selling ourselves.
We're selling
and
ourselves.
If we want people to buy into us, then we got to be the best that we can be.
Yeah, you got to sell yourself, and many of us, we don't have that confidence. And I know it sounds so ridiculous, but when you walk in a room and you just, a friend of mine, she's a good friend, and also I train with her. And so, soldier proud, like, stand up, chest out. Yeah. And I know it feels uncomfortable when right. But your posture is great. Instead of you walking in like this, hey, how's it going? How you doing? It makes a difference. And it's what
it does.
People want to be with other people when it feels good. So if you feel good about yourself, I'm not saying this is easy at all. And I mean, how many people, and I'm sure Martin, you've dealt with it, that people they lack confidence. Ask 10 people to walk in front of a mirror by themselves and say,
right,
I love you.
Yes.
I think maybe 2 people will, and maybe one of them will cry. And I get it. Yeah. It's not easy because we've been beaten up. And then, to what we talked about before, and you mentioned earlier, we have these blocks, that stuff that's floating out there in our subconscious, right?
Yeah. And that's the thing, when we're talking about confidence, your confidence comes from what do you really believe about yourself? And a lot of that these things have been beat into our subconscious, and they subliminally are what is controlling us. So if, somebody believes I'm overweight, so I don't want to be seen on camera, right? Because you believe that about yourself, you are stopping you. There's a bunch of overweight people that would love to see somebody that's considered overweight because it will give them confidence and they will start expressing themselves. And that could be in whatever aspect. It could be some guy thinks he's too skinny or whatever you think, or, your physical appearance, you have a scar. But the most important belief is what you believe about yourself. Is not what other people believe about you, because everybody we see that is successful, there was a million people that told them why they should not do it. But they believed in themselves to say, no, I see myself as being that person, right? No matter where you're born on this planet, right? There's always somebody telling you why you should not do it. But what you have to do is have the belief in yourself and say, no, I can do it. I can see myself doing it. Now, how do we get there? That it comes with work and study of ourselves, and to realize, why do I feel uncomfortable when people look at me? And then I have to consider the source and say, are these people that important that their opinion of me should dictate my reality? No, it's not. You're that important that you should believe in yourself, and whatever it is you want to do it. Do it for you, not necessarily for everybody else, for you first, and then you can serve other people.
Does that come down to, the cliche, you got to find yourself. You got to learn who you are, why you think this way, all of that.
Yeah, it does. And finding ourselves is something that we don't want to do. Why? Because most people don't want to work. That's the reality. The most important and the hardest work is working on yourself, right? And that's why there's self-mastery and there's personal development. All of it deals with you. And so, it's the reason why A students work for C students. What happens is it's easy to follow for some people, it's so easy just to follow a system. The C student at some point realizes I have the ability to control a reality if I learn to work on myself. And because I worked on myself, I conquer fear. This guy might be an A student and everybody says he will be successful, but he's afraid to start his business because he's playing it safe. He would rather just follow a set guideline. The guy that is making C's his whole life, he's kind of getting by in another system, but he's fearless with expressing himself. Yeah. And that's the world we live in now. We're in a creative society now. It's all about creation. And so you can create so much wealth by just expressing yourself and you being creative, taking a existing industry and adding your spin on it and being authentic and saying, I'm unapologetically me. Yep. This is me. And people are buying into it.
Yep. Authentic. It's a word that gets thrown around like resolution, but it means so much. And as you were just speaking, Martin, I got this view of layers being peeled off of somebody and the real person right there. That's hiding underneath the layers. What are the layers? The stuff that we believe from our childhood that's stuck in our head. The failures we had that we look at them as failures instead of looking at them as learning lessons. And that moved me forward. We always look, that kicked me back. But when you're you, the real you, that's what people love.
Yes, exactly.
But sometimes we run from that. I have a friend, she's wonderful. She single mom struggles, started a charity. She focuses there. She's a people connector. She does all this people. She started like this little meek mouse, like I want to say it was like 4 years ago I met her. And now she's like blossomed. However, she's not making a lot of money, but she's helping all these other people. And I said, you're running from something by staying always busy. You need to confront yourself. And the money will follow. And the money will follow.
Right. And quickly, it could be a mindset view of her in money. How she views money. Or, I had it when I first started in business. I'm a people pleasing type of guy. But I had a problem with charging for something, but it was a blockage in me that was like, should I charge for this? And you realize, yes, you should, because if you would not have helped this person, would their business have went to another level? And then when I started charging, it was like, oh, okay. Yeah, it was no problem. And I'm like, wow, I've been overthinking this for so long. We pay for what we want. We pay where there's value. It's like going into this is the reason why they have low-end restaurants and the fine restaurant. That service you get at the top-notch restaurant is exquisite. The way they prepare a steak and they present it to you on a platter, you're gonna pay for it. Yeah. And so whatever you're doing, be the best at it. Don't be half-assed, as my mama used to say.
My mom used to say the same thing.
Be the best at what you do, and when you present it, people will have no problem paying for whatever you're presenting.
Well, it's also the value, and you have to remember, I am providing value. There's a reason they're working with me, so own it. I have in my entire, I don't want to say how old I am, but I've never heard somebody else's mom say half-assed. So that was like, wow. Okay, you brought me back. We're just about out of time, Martin. How do we engage you and your team to move things forward and even just start a conversation? How do we reach you?
Reach me. Well, first, definitely go to Masternomics on YouTube, like and subscribe. You get a lot of updates there. On all other social media platforms, we can be reached. The email, you can go to masternomics1@gmail.com. Send in any comments. That's the best way to reach us right now. We'll update the new phone number later. But all social media platforms, Masternomics, share. We put a lot of free information out. Just go to our YouTube and you'll see it.
Awesome. One thing many things about you, but one I strongly detect is you are authentic and genuine. It shines through. Yeah,
well, thank you.
It really does. Yeah, always wonderful talking with you. And even the block about abundance, what we were just talking about it there at the end, we do a whole podcast on that kind of stuff.
That's right.
To hold people back from being successful.
Right. Well, hey, let's do it.
All right. And thank you for
Okay.
being here. We'll catch up next time. Okay.
All right. Thank
Appreciate
you.
it. We'll be right back. Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
When it comes to making plans, you are the best. What about those round trips that you plan in advance, which are perfect on your way there and perfect on your way back? Or those meetings with friends for which you make a group chat 3 months before so that nobody or anything is missing? Or your daughter's first birthday party. You planned it with such dedication that instead of the first, it felt like our 15s. The same way you plan each detail for those moments. Start planning to protect you and your loved ones from a natural disaster. Sign up for local weather and emergency alerts. Prepare an emergency kit. And make a family communications plan. Protecting your family is the best plan you can make. Get started at ready.gov/plan.
Brought to you by FEMA and the Ad Council.